First of all, the Buddha lived in the 5th or 6th century BCE, and after he awakened, clearing all the defilements from his mind, he walked around ancient India and taught the Dharma, the Buddhist teachings. Welcome. And in ancient India, you had all these different wanderers. You know, there were the Brahmins who were practicing, and then you had the wanderers who were different ascetics of various types. And so the Buddha kind of fell more on that side, but still he wasn't exactly like all the other wandering ascetics. But he set up the Sangha, which is the community of people who really wanted to make a commitment, a very serious commitment to practice the path. And that commitment involved what they call going from home to homeless. Okay? So giving up the householder life of having a house and a family and, everything like that, and going into the homeless life where your commitment is to your spiritual practice, and you live by the kindness of other people who give you alms, so you live a simple life. So he set up the Sangha in that way, yeah? And that's what has continued from the time of the Buddha down to us, 2,600 years later. Okay, so it's quite amazing that a lifestyle kind of continued for all these centuries. Of course, it's changed, and how it's lived in each country is different according to the climate, the political situation, the culture of each country. So that's why within Buddhism you'll see different forms of Buddhism. If you go to a Japanese temple, it looks one way. If you go to a Tibetan temple, it looks another way. If you go to a Theravada temple, it looks different. Yeah, but all the teachings come back to the Four Noble Truths, the Noble Eightfold Path, essentially to renunciation, which means giving up the causes of unsatisfactory conditions, the causes of suffering, developing concentration to be able to control the mind, developing love, compassion, and an altruistic intention to work for the benefit of all living beings, and then finally to develop the wisdom that knows both the ultimate way that things exist and their conventional ways of existing and functioning. So it's the path is long and expansive. It is not quick, cheap, and easy. Yeah, maybe cheap, but certainly not quick and easy. But we speak a lot about past and future lives, so if it isn't completed this life, you just continue in a future life. Okay? Buddhist monasticism, what can I say about it? It's wonderful. Yeah, it's really wonderful. I had never thought personally to be a monastic, and in fact, if you had told me when I was 21 that I would be a celibate monastic, I would have said, you are absolutely out of your mind. Yeah, but our life also often turns out in ways that we never anticipated. Yeah, so I encountered the Buddha Dharma when I was 24, and I was ordained at 26. And, still have the same clothes and the same hairdo. Yeah, more gray hair, more wrinkles, but, aside from that, it's, you know, the lifestyle is pretty much the same. While Catholic monastics join certain orders, you know, you may have a teaching order or a healthcare order or a contemplative order, something like that. In Buddhism, we don't have orders like that. You know, in the Catholic Church, if you know, are in a contemplative order, that's what you do your whole life. If you're in a teaching order, that's what you do your whole life. For us, you know, we have our precepts, and within our monastic precepts, we can live in very different ways at different times in our life. So usually at the beginning, we focus on study. You know, the idea being that unless you know the teachings, you won't know how to meditate on them. Because meditation is not just closing your eyes and, you know, doing something, who knows what, yeah. But meditation is you know, really teaching you to focus your mind on a virtuous object. And to do that, you have to learn how to identify and then work with your confusion, your anger, your clinging attachment, your arrogance, your jealousy, your resentment, you know, all those lovely parts of ourself that, you know, are so nice to sit alone with on a cushion. Yeah? Because developing compassion isn't just a process of saying, I have compassion, I love everybody. It's actually transforming our mind. Yeah. Because I remember when I was a little kid, you know, everybody said, love thy neighbor as thyself, which it sounded great. But my problem was I didn't see anybody who could do it. Yeah, everybody said it, but I didn't see people doing it, and nobody could tell me how to do it. You know, I mean, how do I love somebody as myself if the guy's totally a jerk? Yeah, I mean, how do you do that? Do you just plaster over everything and ignore it and say, oh, I love everybody? You know, you can't make yourself feel something you don't feel. So I was really very hungry for, you know, a method or a path to practice, something that made sense, aside from just having lovely aspirations. Yeah. And so that's what I thought was very precious about the Buddha's teachings, was that, you know, the Buddha really, and the lineage that stemmed from him, presented a whole psychological method for subduing the mind. Yeah. So if you have a problem with anger, which all of us do, am I insulting anybody here? If you're insulted because I said you're angry, I'm probably right, because you're probably mad at me. Yeah? So, you know, what do we do with our anger? Yeah. So we have to learn how to see the situation in a completely different way so that the anger isn't there. It's not a question of stuffing the anger. It's not a question of screaming in an open field until you're exhausted. It's a question of how can you see the situation in a different way so that your anger just isn't there. Okay. So it's really a process of mental transformation. And to do this, it takes practice. That's why it's called practice, the Buddha's teachings. Okay? Practice means you have to do it again and again and again and again, because we are creatures of habit. And right now we're very habituated with anger, aren't we? Yeah. Is there anybody today who didn't get angry at something? Maybe you didn't yell and scream, but get irritated, annoyed, frustrated. Maybe even yell and scream, or maybe even close the door and not talk to anybody. You know, I mean, this happens every day, doesn't it? Yeah. So to look at the situation, because wherever we go, we're going to meet people who do not live up to our expectations. Okay. Wherever we go, whatever we do, we're going to meet people who criticize us. So we better get used to it. Yeah. Because this is the reality of the situation, isn't it? I mean, where are you going to go on this planet where nobody is ever going to criticize you? Or make fun of you, or misunderstand you, or blame you when you haven't done anything? Yeah. Where are we ever going to go? Who are we ever going to be with where somebody does everything we want them to do? I don't know any place. Yeah. They talk about going to heaven. I mean, some people talk about going to heaven, but I'm not so sure. You know, be with your family all that time? Does your family do what you want them to do? I'm not sure if being with your family is heaven or if it's hell. You know, it depends on your mental state, doesn't it? Because our mental state is what makes family life heaven or what makes it hell. It's not the other people. Okay. So the Buddha was so skilled in, you know, showing us, okay, when we get angry, we're looking at the situation from the viewpoint of who? Me. Yeah. I'm looking at the situation through this teeny periscope, which is called me, I, my, and mine. But I think this teeny periscope is the whole universe. Yeah. So I think I'm having the broad view. But actually, because I think I'm the center of the universe, actually my view is that big. And so judging and evaluating and relating to everything from the viewpoint of me, as if I'm the center of the universe. Yeah. So this is really where we got it wrong to start with. Yeah. Because unbeknownst to us, actually, the sad news is we aren't the center of the universe. We keep trying to prove to the rest of the world that we are. Yeah. Because everybody should agree with us, right? Everybody should agree with me. I am always right. I would never be wrong. Yeah. Even if I change my mind tomorrow, the new thing I believe is right, even though the old thing was the opposite. And that was also right when I believed in it, because I am never wrong. And the problem with the world is that it doesn't get that I'm always right. Hmm? Do you have that problem in your life? Yeah. So, you know, that kind of attitude of I'm always right and my happiness is worth more than anybody else's happiness. And other people should realize that, and they should consider my happiness first. You know, and that's why the world is so stupid, because they don't realize that my happiness is the foremost. Because that's what I think about all day long, right? What do you think about all day long? From the time the alarm clock wakes in the morning, what's your first thought in the morning? That alarm clock is not making me happy. Put it on snooze. Okay, then it rings again. Second thought in the morning, what will give me pleasure to get out of bed? Yeah, isn't it? Oh, a hot shower, cup of coffee. Oh, coffee, yes. Then you come to the Abbey and you can't drink coffee. Then, oh, why should I get out of bed if I can't have a cup of coffee? You know, all day long we're looking for pleasure. All day long we're looking to get away from things that bug us. All day long, the whole world, our whole life, is centered around me. Yeah. So this actually brings us a lot of problems. Yeah, this incredible self-centered focus, because there's no space for anybody else in our mind, unless it's somebody who makes me happy. If they make me happy, then they're a good person. Yeah. If tomorrow they make me unhappy, then they're a bad person. Okay? So people go from being good to being bad, depending upon how they relate to the center of the universe, me. Yeah? So all my judgments, all my opinions, everything is in terms of how people relate to me. Do they bring me pleasure? Do they bring me pain? Yeah. And what I define as bringing me pleasure changes every day. Because one day I want to eat Chinese food, and the next day I want to eat pizza. And the third day after that, I want to eat Tibetan food until I've gone to the restaurant and drink that horrible Tibetan tea. Yeah. But, you know, what I want to make me happy changes every day. But I expect everybody else to know what it is and give it to me. Yeah. And as for them and their happiness, they are so privileged to have me in their life. Yeah, don't you think that? Yeah. Your boss, isn't your boss so privileged to have you as an employee? Yeah. That boss couldn't get a better employee than us. You know, they just need to realize that. Yeah. And our family, they're so lucky to have us. Even when we're grumpy and grouchy and criticize and yell and scream and stomp off, they're so lucky to have us. Yeah. Isn't that the way we view the world? Mm. So this attitude of, you know, this self-centered attitude, it makes us very super sensitive to everything other people do. Yeah. We're constantly we're so easily offended. Constantly, you know, dissatisfied. And, you know, it comes because we're actually thinking about ourselves above everybody else. When we change that focus and we consider that other living beings have been kind to us, have been kind to us, will be kind to us, and that there's 7 billion of them, at least human beings, and I don't even know how many gazillion sentient beings there are if we count all the animals and insects and fish and, you know, just even on planet Earth. I don't know, have the scientists ever given an estimate how many living beings there are in the ocean? Or how many ants there are in the world? I mean, you know your house in spring. You can't even count the ants. There's so many, at least where we are. Okay? So, you know, when you think there's so many other living beings, and my life actually depends on them, that I wouldn't have anything I had. I wouldn't know anything at all if it weren't for the kindness of other living beings. If other people didn't teach us how to speak, we wouldn't even know how to speak, which is a skill we take for granted. Yeah? If other people didn't teach us how to write, read and write, if they didn't teach us how to drive a car, if they didn't teach us how to add numbers or how to clean dishes. Yeah? Just even the most elementary things in our life, we learn from other living beings. Let alone, you know, all of our individual talents and skills. If you learned accounting or law or, you know, sanitation or who knows what. We all have different skills and different professions. But everything we know came because other people taught us. And everything we own, everything we have and use to keep us alive, all came from other people. Now you might say, but I bought it. Where did the money come from? Okay. If you think you have financial problems now, when we were born, we were totally broke. Yeah. 100% broke when we came out of our mother's womb. And people have taken care of us since then. People have given us money. We may have worked for it, but they still gave us the money. Yeah. So everything we have, you know, everything around us, you know, is all due to the efforts and kindness of other people. So shouldn't we try and be nice to them? Shouldn't we try and repay the kindness that other people have shown us? You know, this self-centered attitude that's always thinking me, 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 me is really loco. It's really nuts. You know, because we live in a world actually surrounded by people who have been very kind to us, whether we know them or don't know them. Yeah? And if you think about, because then the mind says, oh, but they also harm me. Think about one day, any day, today, okay? How many people helped you today? How many people harmed you today? Okay? Where did your breakfast come from? How many people were involved in you having breakfast? Yeah? People who planted whatever it was, who, you know, harvested, who packaged it, who transported it, who cooked it. You know, but then also all the miners who got the metal that made the vehicles that you know, carried the food. You know, if we look around us, everything is like so interrelated with other living beings. We receive help just in getting breakfast. So many living beings helped us. How many people irritated you today? Yeah. Nothing near the number of people who have been kind to us, upon whom our life depends. Nothing near that. Yeah. And even the people who bugged us, when I look, I don't know about you, but often I get angry at the people I get angry and irritated at are actually people who are trying to help me. They just aren't helping me in the way I want them to. But they're, you know, we're working on something together, so they're trying to help. But I want them to help in a different way. But they're actually people who are thinking, how can we work together to get something done? And yet I get mad at them because they aren't reading my mind, even though my mind changes so much. And they aren't doing exactly what I want them to do when I want them to do it. Okay? So if I can, you know, subdue this self-centered mind and really see that the kindness of others and that cherishing others is actually the attitude that is more correct and is a more viable response, you know, to contact with other living beings. If I really cherished others and acted in a way to take care of them, then they would be a lot happier, and I would be a lot happier, and I would live in a world surrounded by people who were much happier than if I were self-centered. Because what I do impacts others. Okay, so this is how we train our mind. This is the training that is involved in our monastic life. Okay, monastic life isn't just, following a schedule and doing a bunch of rituals and this, that, and the other thing. It's actually training your mind. And so we live together in a community. Guess what happens? The same thing as whenever you have more than one sentient being somewhere. People have different ideas. They have different ways of doing things. They think differently. Okay? So part of our practice is learning to get along with other living people, other living beings. Yeah? To learn to hear them out, to learn to be patient. Yeah, because something may be very important to them and it's not important to us. Yeah? So to be able to accept that and learn to work with the situation. I'm okay, actually. See, she was trying to help me. Yeah? So, yeah, this is very much our training. A week or two ago, I was in, where was it? Cleveland. And I was giving a talk at Cleveland State University. A professor asked me to talk to her Buddhism in America class. So I was talking like this, and she said, "Talk about your training." And I said, "I am." Because she was thinking training is, you get up in the morning and you make 3 prostrations and then you walk in a straight line to do this and then you recite that. And, but monastic training is what's going on in here. Okay? All the rituals, the external activities are the field in which you try and, transform your mind. Now, whatever rituals we do, they're for the purpose of mental transformation. Doing the ritual just for the sake of doing a ritual is useless. Okay? So all the external things we do are all designed for changing here. And changing here is much more difficult than, getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning because everybody gets up at that time, or, doing this, that, or the other thing that everybody else is doing according to the schedule. Yeah? But that's the real practice. That's what real spiritual practice is. Okay, so lay people do it and monastics do it. It's just when you live a monastic life, it's much harder to escape. Yeah, because, people often think, oh, in a monastery, look, you all wear the same clothes, you all have the same hairdo, you have the same beliefs, what do you ever quarrel about? Let me tell you. Okay, when you live in a monastery, you live with people that you would never associate with in regular life. Yeah. When you guys go to work, if you don't like a colleague, when you leave in the evening, you can get rid of them. They don't come home with you. Yeah. We live, work, sleep, do everything, eat, everything with the same people all the time. And like I said, some of these are people you would not associate with because you just have very different personalities. Yeah. True? You better agree with me. Because I'm right. So this is how we practice, you know, this is what our practice is all about. Many years ago, I was visiting Boston, and I went to visit a contemplative nunnery there. I forget what kind of sisters they were, but I had met them because they had come to one of His Holiness the Dalai Lama's talks in Dharamsala. So they had given me their contact, and I went to visit them. And so I had the abbess invited me to have lunch with them. They were cloistered. And then at the end of lunch, she says, I want you to give a talk. Okay, what am I going to talk about? So I just talked about, you know, living together with other people. You know, kind of this kind of thing. Boy, they knew exactly what I was talking about. You know, this whole thing of how you train your mind by living with other people. We were on the same page. It was really quite something to see. Yeah. So that's something, you know, that we would have, you know, Catholics and Buddhist contemplatives, you know, would very much have in common. What else can I say? Outcomes. My idea about outcomes is just create the cause, let the result come. Okay? Don't be so goal-driven. It's like when you plant a seed in your garden. You don't dig it up every day to see if it's growing. Yeah. You plant it and then you create the conditions for it to grow. Yeah. So same in our spiritual life. We plant seeds in our mind through hearing teachings, through contemplating them, and then we have to water the seeds in our mind and nurture them. Yeah. And then the results kind of come. We don't need to be so obsessed with results. Yeah. Because actually, the mind, if you live a spiritual life and you're always wanting to achieve something, that actually becomes an obstacle for you. Yeah. So it's very much about learn to create the causes and be satisfied with that. Okay, so what I want to do now is open it up. You can ask questions, make comments. It's up to you. Yes?
I'd just like you to explore that last comment you made a little bit about create the causes and then let that unfold. Can you maybe talk a little bit about some of the causes that you like to create, or what you mean by causes?
Okay. So if, you know, several years ago, it must have been actually 1989 when I first came back to the States, I was with my brother. My brother is a radiological oncologist. That's the most I have to struggle to say what he does. Okay? So he's one of those, you know, kind of people. He's my younger brother, by the way. And I did better than him in school. But he sat me down and he said, what do you want to be in 10 years? What do you want your life to be like in 10 years? And I said, I want to be a kinder person. And he said, that's nice, but what do you want to do? You know, I said, I just want to be a kinder person. That's all. That's my life goal for, you know, for the next 10 years. It's my 10-year project, my lifetime project, my 10 lifetime project, my 10 eon project. Okay? So he was completely floored. He didn't know what to make of me, but that's usual. So then the question is, okay, if that's my goal, how do I create the causes to become a kinder person? Well, first of all, I have to keep precepts. Yeah, I have to learn to restrain my negative actions. And so my precepts help me to do that. Yeah? So precepts are things that we voluntarily enter into that help us not do the things that we don't really want to do but are tempted to do. Okay? So one of the ways to train my mind to, be more loving is to restrain my negativities, and I do that through keeping precepts, taking and keeping precepts. Okay? I also need to learn how to recognize different mental states. Yeah. And to discriminate what is a wholesome or virtuous mental state and what is an unwholesome or destructive mental state. Because lots of times we think we know what is a beneficial mental state and what is a corrupt one, but we don't really. Because our standard is everything that agrees with my self-centeredness is a beneficial mental state, and everything that doesn't agree is a harmful one. That's wrong. Okay. So I have to learn how to really figure out, what is beneficial, what is virtuous, and what isn't. And then to recognize all these different mental states when they arise in my own mind, in my own life. Yeah. So to do that, I need to get in touch with what's going on inside me. Yeah. To get in touch with what's going on inside me, I have to be less busy. Because if I'm always running around and I'm always in contact with the media and returning phone calls and doing email and running around doing this and that and going to the movies and listening to music and catching up on the latest this and that and always externally oriented, then I'm going to be totally out of touch with what's going on inside of me, and I won't be able to see these mental states. Okay? So I have to simplify my life. Yeah? And I have to be really careful about how I relate to the media, because the media tells me, they're trying to tell me who I should be, what I should look like, what I should have, what I should think. And, I don't want to follow the media's recommendation for success, because their recommendation of success is I do what they want me to do, which is buy more stuff and use more than more of the world's resources than I deserve to use. Yeah. So I want to be really careful how I relate to the media. Yeah. And look closely at my mind and learn to recognize different mental states. Then I also need to study the Buddhist teachings to learn the antidotes, the ways of counteracting these mental states, the ways of transforming them through looking at the situation in a different manner. Okay? So those are some of the things that are the causes and conditions to get to that goal. Okay? Yeah?
What's a typical day like at the monastery? Like you wake up, brush your teeth, and then you go to bed. What you do?
Okay, in between that.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So wake up, brush your teeth, feed the cat. Yeah. Other sentient beings let you know they're there as soon as you arise. Purr. Feed me. Okay, feed the cat, set up the altar. Yeah. Make a cup of tea, sit down and meditate. Okay?
Is it caffeinated tea? Is it just an herbal tea?
I have caffeinated tea in the morning. Yeah. So, we have morning meditation from 5:30 until 7. I usually go longer than that. Breakfast at 7:30. And then after breakfast, we often, usually, at least many days a week, we have a little stand-up meeting where the community just goes around and we check in how we are and what we plan to do in that day and say what we appreciated in our life from the previous day. And then we have a time of offering service until lunchtime. Offering service is what other people call work. We call it offering service because we want our lives to be a life of offering to other sentient beings. So we offer service. Yeah. Then at lunchtime we have a short teaching, and we eat in then we do some chanting. We eat in silence. We talk at the very end of the meal, and then we do some chanting after lunch. Then there's a short break, or actually an hour break usually, but you have to do the dishes and clean up. Then we have some more offering service, and then we have a time of study or teaching, okay, for an hour and a half. Then a break at 6 o'clock for people who eat dinner. Some people eat, some people don't. And at 7 o'clock, from 7 till 8:15, meditation. And then at 8:15, people do whatever they like. Yeah. So that's kind of our average day.
Would be every day?
Yeah.
Except for today.
Yeah. Well, there's
You're
certain there's certain things where we have to alter the schedule.
Where's your monastery?
It's south of Newport. It's about an hour north of here. If you go up Highway 2, yeah, and then you turn in at Gray Road, right? Gray Road to Spring Valley Road. There's brochures in the back. Yeah. And people are welcome to come up anytime you want. Some people come up for the day. Some people come up and spend a few days with us, stay overnight. We have courses where it's open to the public and people come to study or do a whole course with us. So